6,000 Airbus airplanes were grounded recently. And the culprit, well, according to the latest reports, they're saying it's cosmic radiation. A spike in cosmic radiation glitched the software. And you just got an echo there. Hey, everybody, I'm Rick Spare, Elite Project. How the heck are you? Beautiful day today out here in Southern Colorado. It's about 30 degrees, sun's out, blue skies, frosty weather. So I hope you're doing fantastic. I hope you're safe. I hope you're prepared, not scared. And interesting timing with the grounding of these Airbuses, 6,000 of them, like one of the busiest holiday seasons of the year. It gets grounded. So what's going on? Is it really cosmic radiation, or is there potentially something else as the culprit? We're going to get into it. We're going to look at the latest information that we can find, and I did a deep dive. So buckle up, buttercups. Let's go. Also, new information on 3i Atlas. According to Professor Loeb's research, 3i Atlas appears to have a pulse about every 16 hours and 16 minutes. This interesting pulse that it's kind of weird, right? I mean, but 3i Atlas is extremely bizarre if we compare it to other comets that we know about, but it's interstellar. So who knows what's out there? And, you know, I've got a good friend, Greg Allison, rocket scientist, former NASA contractor, retired military. He's worked and been involved in many projects involving missiles and space. And he thinks 3i Atlas is some type of alien technology. So I'm not going to put that theory out yet. I mean, I've definitely kind of leaned more towards the electric universe cosmology of it being some very old and ancient piece of a planet that's been being cooked through space for millions of years. But the way that it has maneuvered, especially when it did its perihelion movement, and it shifted just enough to be in the what's referred to as hill zone around Jupiter, which is the perfect location if you are a spacecraft and you want to drop off some probes or technology or satellites that won't get captured by the sun's gravity. If you launch it in that Goldilocks zone, that's the best place, these Lagrange points. So we're going to get into that in a minute also, but let me share with you the latest reports on these Airbuses that have been grounded because they were bad. Oh yeah, they were bad. This is wild, absolutely wild. So, oops. Let's get, oh yeah, also, I wanted to let you know about something. If you're watching this and if you're like, well, Rex, I'm getting 2 notifications now. I used to not get any notifications, and now I'm getting 2 notifications. The reason you're getting 2 notifications, and hopefully you are, is because we are live streaming this not only through vertical, but for horizontal. So YouTube has a new feature where if you want to watch this on your phone and you want to watch it in vertical mode, there's the live stream for vertical, or if you want to watch it on your big screen or your TV or your computer in a horizontal form, then you can just click that other stream. Now, what you want to look for at the end of the title, if it's on the vertical stream, you'll notice like a little phone icon. So that's letting you know that you're watching it on the phone stream, on the vertical stream. So just to let you all know. And what's up? Did you eat a lot of turkey? Did you have a good Thanksgiving? Are you having an awesome day? Are you looking forward to Christmas? Are you looking forward to the holidays? Well, I really hope you have amazing holidays and everything you want comes true. And I hope you want to be the change because the world needs it right now. Be the change you want to see, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into this. The Airbus groundings. We've got the date of the recall. It originally happened. The Airbus bulletin and recall went out November 28th. About 6,000 A320 family jets, which is over half of the global A320 fleet, flagged for immediate software repair. Many briefly grounded until the fix was applied. Now, this originally happened, well, I'll get into the original incident in a minute, but there's several operators that are affected by this. We've got American Airlines, Lufthansa, Indigo, EasyJet, Aviation, Air France, Air New Zealand, and many others have reported delays and cancellations while they cycled the jets through the fix. Now, these jets, the original was a recall triggered by a JetBlue A320 flight from Cancun to Newark, and that was October 30th. The jet suffered a sharp, uncommanded drop in altitude, injuring several passengers and forcing an emergency landing in Tampa. Investigation showed a flight control problem linked to corrupted data, and the case got the FAA and EASA digging into the A320 flight control computers. What they found, at least the public explanation on this, and I'm not fully convinced. I think there could be something far more involved here. And I'll tell you why in a minute, but let's just look at the official reason. The issue is in the ELAC, that stands for Elevator and Aileron Computer, which translate pilot side stick inputs into elevator movements and control pitch. The Airbus found that on certain software versions, solar flares, high energy radiation could corrupt data critical to flight controls, causing the ELAC to misbehave. It's been naughty. It's on the naughty list. The software update that had been installed on thousands of jets left the ELAC system more vulnerable to simultaneous bit flips than the older versions. That's very interesting, especially if there's some really nasty hackers out there. The recall bulletin instructs airlines to revert to an earlier software version, while Airbus and Thales evaluate a more robust fix for 1,000+ aircraft, approximately. Hardware changes, the ELAC units may also be needed. So for roughly 2/3 of these affected jets, they say it's just a 2-hour software rollback performed during an overnight check, but the requirement to do it before further commercial flights forced temporary groundings and mass schedule disruption. So was there an increased flux of radiation on during the 30th when that happened? I did some research. Yes, there was. However, what's also very interesting to note is because the sun has been so active the past couple of months, last month especially, remember the aurora borealis in the lower 48? That's very uncommon. I mean, the past couple of years it's been more common, but before that, very, very uncommon. You'd have to go back to 2003, and it wasn't anywhere near as extreme then, but there was some aurora borealis in the lower 48 and some activity with the sun and the magnetosphere causing these incredible sights in the sky from increased radiation that if you look at, you can actually look at certain videos that show when these CMEs, when all this plasma hits the Earth's magnetosphere, how much it weakens and how much smaller it gets during these events. We're very lucky to have a magnetosphere, that's for sure. But roughly 2/3 of the jets affected had to go through this 2-hour software rollback, which was performed during an overnight check. And the EASA issued an emergency airworthiness directive, making the fix mandatory. Now, that's not the only thing that they found when they were searching through some of these jets, like safety checks. They also found the fuselages of some of these jets could be thinner and uneven and they weren't built the way they were supposed to be to specifications, some of these fuselages. Now, they say there's very little threat there, but under worst circumstances, worst case scenarios, it could be a very dire threat. I'm going to get into that in a minute, but let's look at some of the consequences and some of what actually did take place. So there were disruptions that hit Thanksgiving and the holiday travel in the US that rippled across the globe. Avianca said the recall affected over 70% of its fleet and temporarily closed ticket sales through December 8th. This comes on top of earlier A320 Neo engine-related groupings, Pratt & Whitney GTF inspections, material contamination that had already parked hundreds of Airbus jets for months. I wonder how their stock's doing. We've also had to deal with Boeing groundings, the MCAS, the MAX 9 plug door, and the UPS MD-11. Remember that? The UPS plane that just crashed. That was horrific. So let's look at a list of some other events that have taken place recently. The Boeing 737 MAX. There was the MCAS software disaster that caused groundings in 2019 and 2020. Crashes that triggered the first worldwide grounding, the Lion Air Flight 610 MAX 8, that was October 29th in 2018. Then we had the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 MAX 8, March 10th, 2019. Those two crashes caused 346 fatalities. Now, Boeing added the MCAS, which is Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, a flight control law that could command nose-down stabilizer trim if it sensed a high angle of attack. When they added the MCAS, read from a single AOA sensor, creating a single point failure on a safety critical system. In both crashes, a faulty AOA sensor fed bad data to the MCAS, which repeatedly trimmed the nose down and overpowered the pilots. The MCAS was not fully disclosed to pilots. It was omitted from manuals and training to keep no new simulator marketing promises. Interesting. Now, the global regulators grounded the MAX in March of 2019. The FAA order lasted until November 18th of 2020. Now let's go a few years in the future. The MCAS must use 2 AOA sensors and compare them. The MCAS can no longer repeatedly drive the nose down, and pilots can override it more easily. Now let's go to 2024. The Boeing 737-9 MAX, the 2024 door plug blowout and short grounding, Alaska Airlines flight 1282, January 5th, 2024, a brand new 737-9 MAX suffered an in-flight blowout of the left mid-exit door plug, causing a large fuselage hole and rapid depressurization. Luckily, no fatalities. There were several minor injuries, and the cause, according to NTSB, 4 critical bolts securing the door plug were never reinstalled at the factory after rework. Oops. And Boeing's parts removal process, paperwork, and training failed. There was no required removal record, and quality control never caught the missing bolts. Nanu. The consequence, the FAA ordered an emergency airworthiness directive grounding 171 MAX 9s with the door plug configuration for inspection. This was a manufacturing quality control failure, not a software bug, but it compounded public concern over Boeing's safety culture. Then, just last month, we had the UPS MD-11 fleet grounding. November 4th, 2025, UPS flight 2976 MD-11 crashed shortly after takeoff from Louisville, killing 14 people, 3 crew, and 11 on the ground. Horrific. And hitting a warehouse and a petroleum facility. UPS responded by grounding its entire MD-11 fleet indefinitely for inspections and repairs right before the peak holiday shipping season. Interesting. See, the timing of all this is very peculiar to me. It could 100% be the official story that they're telling us. But with all the hybrid warfare, or what is referred to as hybrid warfare going on right now with NATO nations and Russia, Ukraine, Russia, and potentially China, like how about the two aircraft that crashed in the South China Sea within an hour of each other during military operations out there? A lot of speculation gained a lot of speculation and a lot of theories. A lot of people, including myself, thought that it could potentially be some type of espionage. China says they had nothing to do with it. But would they tell you? Not unless they're ready to go to war. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's more to the story than what they're telling us. Can we confirm it yet? No. In the future, maybe. We're going to keep looking. We're going to keep searching. And the information might come out if there's more to the story. So, like if we look at a list of high target, big news stories of helicopters and plane crashes that have crashed last year and this year, it's pretty substantial. We've got the December 28th, 2024, Jeju Air Boeing 737-800 over South Korea. Front landing gear failed to deploy. The aircraft overran the runway at Muan International Airport. It hit a concrete fence and it caught fire. 179 people were killed, making it the deadliest crash of 2024. Throughout 2024, other notable fatal airliner accidents happened. January 2nd, Japan Airlines jet collided with a Coast Guard plane in Tokyo. June 10th, the Malawi vice president and 9 others were killed in a military plane crash. In July, we had the Sarya Airlines crash in Nepal. In August, we had the Vopus turboprop crash in Brazil. Icing is suspected on that one. December 22nd, a small plane crash in Brazil, killing 10, injuring many on the ground. December 25th, Azerbaijan Airlines plane reportedly shot down over Kazakhstan. And then the most recent 2025 UPS flight, 2976 MD-11, the cargo crash in Louisville. So they ground the entire MD-11 fleet. Now, on top of these major events, the Aviation Safety Network records 148 aviation occurrences in 2025 with 515 fatalities. All types and sizes of aircraft worldwide, according to the claim. We've also had helicopter accidents. Now, and this was interesting, in Iran, the Varzakhan helicopter crash in Iran was May 19th, 2024. It was the Bell 212 carrying Iranian president, the foreign minister, and others crashing in the mountainous terrain. They said it was poor weather. They said it was poor weather that caused the crash. Now, the interesting thing is, if you ever study scripture, there are certain dates that events take place, and it'll tell you after this date in this many days, something else will happen. And that date in particular was linked to a very important date in scripture. Whether there's any coincidence there or not, I don't know. We talked about it last year, and I can pull that information back up and we can talk about it again in the future. But that date in particular was the exact same date that people were projecting a major event to take place. And I would say that's a pretty major event, especially if we consider many of these scriptures originating in the Middle East and the conflict between Iran and Israel and other actors out there. That timing is very, very specific. So interesting, very interesting. November 10th, we had the Vanderbilt Life Flight helicopter in Tennessee. It was an air medical helicopter that crashed 30 miles east of Nashville. However, in 2024, there were 88 helicopter accidents in the U.S. That's the second lowest count in 25 years. So the helicopter accidents were actually lower in 2024, with an accident rate of 2.99 per 100,000 flight hours, also the lowest in that period. Another review found only 7 fatal helicopter accidents and 29 non-fatal accidents worldwide in 2023 in the data set they analyzed. So our crash is actually increasing compared to recent years. Well, according to the data that I have here from IATA and ICAO and other safety reports, in 2022, there were 5 fatal accidents, 158 fatalities, with a fatality risk of 0.11 per million sectors. In 2023, 1 fatal accident, turboprop, with 72 fatalities, which is the lowest all accident and fatality risk on record. The fatality risk, 0.03 per million sectors. An individual would have to fly daily for 103,000 years to be in a fatal airline crash, according to that data and IATA. Then, 2024, we've got 7 fatal accidents, 244 onboard fatalities, plus 7 others on the ground. The accident rate of 2.56 per million departures. That's up 37% from 2023's 1.87 per million. Now let's jump to 2025. 2025, so far, the ASN is showing 148 occurrences, 515 fatalities for 2025 across all types, including cargo, smaller aircraft, etc. One analysis of U.S. accidents says 623 accidents from January through July of 2025 versus 729 in the same period, 2024. So the overall accident count is less this year than last year, according to the data sets. However, both years have been elevated. Now, I wanted to go over another thing that they found as a problem when they were doing safety checks. So there's a fuselage problem. Airbus says that certain fuselage panels, specifically panels above the cockpit and around the front doors produced by supplier Sofitech Aerospace, may have been manufactured with inconsistent thickness. The flaw reportedly affects a mix of aircraft, some already delivered and in service, others still on the final assembly line, and some earlier in production. While Airbus claims there is no immediate safety threat, well, of course they're going to claim that, they acknowledge a slim risk of rapid decompression. Slim risk, huh? So a slim risk of rapid decompression in the worst case scenario for planes with excessively thin panels, especially on those that have undergone previous repairs. As a result of the defect, some deliveries have already been delayed, which is obviously hurting Airbus's ability to meet its 2025 delivery goal of 820 aircraft. The problem compounds a very bad week or month for Airbus. First, the global A320 software flight control recall, 6,000 jets. Now a manufacturing structural quality scandal, which has shaken confidence among airlines, regulators, and financial markets. Absolutely, and it should. The shares reportedly fell nearly 6% after the news. I'm surprised that's all it fell, but I mean, I'm not a stock guru. I'm more into gold and silver, but I do like stocks and Bitcoin. Airlines and Airbus have begun inspecting potentially affected aircraft, and any with suspect panels will likely need replacement before delivery for new ones or before further flights for in-service planes. So we don't just have a software glitch. Now we've got structural integrity of these aircraft, combining that with possible fly-by-wire software vulnerability and fuselage panel faults, and the narrative shifts from rare bug to systematic quality control breakdown. For passengers, regulators, and airlines, this erodes trust. A worldwide recall, now structural defects, reminds people that even routine commercial jets may have hidden flaws. Wow. Like, buckle up, Buttercup. That's intense. Whew. Hey, what's up, Angela? How you doing? Great to see you. How's everybody in the chat? Visual disturbance? Good to see you. How the heck are you? Got some awesome people in the chat here today. Melody, Justin, Secret, Gots, Angie, Lynn, Noodles. Right on. Right on. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Hey, I'm not getting snow. Gypsy says we're getting snow in southwest part of Colorado. Not down here. I'm in southern Colorado, and it's cold. Oh, the sun's not out anymore. We got some clouds coming out. Maybe we'll get some action. Ack. All right, so that is the latest that I wanted to share with you about the Boeing recall and the cosmic radiation. So I was doing some searches on the cosmic radiation and the dates. I was looking at the two to see if we could connect the dots. And the Earth was hit with the most significant spike in cosmic radiation November 11th. That was associated with the X 5.1 class flare, which, by the way, also yesterday, I think we just had another X class 1.8 or 1.3. We did have an X class that should interact with the magnetosphere here soon. But November 11th was the highest radiation that we had. This event triggered a rare ground level enhancement where high energy solar energetic particles were able to penetrate deep into Earth's atmosphere, reaching levels detectable at ground level. Radiation monitors on weather balloons recorded levels at aviation altitudes, about 40,000 feet, that were the highest in nearly 2 decades, reaching almost 10 times normal background levels for a short period. This event did disrupt radio communications, posted potential risks to spacecraft and astronauts. The Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field effectively protected humans on the ground from any direct biological risk, they say. And we're looking at radiation levels now at 0.23 microsieverts per hour, which is about normal out here in southern Colorado, about 7,000 feet elevation. But it's interesting because that event from the 11th of November was part of a sequence of intense solar activity from a highly active sunspot, region AR4274. This occurring as the sun approaches the peak of its 11-year solar cycle, the 11-year solar max. It's predicted to reach its maximum in mid-2025, so earlier this year. So then I was like, well, what about the date? Because it was October 30th that event happened with the Boeing flight. It was October 30th, when allegedly the cosmic radiation is so high that it glitches the software and it causes this plane, this massive Airbus, to do a nosedive, and nobody gets killed, luckily. People do get injured, but that was the culprit that led to this software update. And cosmic radiation, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it just hit this gnarly pocket of cosmic radiation. There was elevated cosmic radiation October 30th. Are you convinced of that, though? Are you convinced that that's what it was? I'd like to see more input and hear more about that. So we'll keep you posted, because based on current data, the Earth was impacted by several CMEs during October, with a notable period of multiple solar storms occurring mid-month. This increased activity, and it's consistent with the sun approaching its solar maximum. So mid-October, around October 15th to the 17th, several CMEs launched from the sun. They were reported to be on a course to collide with Earth's magnetic field during that period. These impacts resulted in strong potential for dazzling auroras, northern lights, visible across North America. Then late October, around the 30th of October, very specific, a specific Earth-directed CME was triggered by an event around October 29th, with forecasters estimating a high probability of impact. This was observed following a fiber eruption on the sun's surface. Additionally, minor solar storms and mini CMEs resulting from a series of far-side blasts likely caused a bumpy ride for space weather from around the 23rd to the 27th, although these were less significant. So that is the latest on the front of this cosmic radiation and these glitches with airplanes that our family and friends fly on. I don't fly, so I don't, well, I mean, I fly in my dreams, but I don't fly in airplanes typically, unless, well, anyway, I haven't flown since I flew to Alaska in 2013, and hopefully I won't be flying again for a while. It's not that I'm scared of flying. I just don't like to be in a tin can surrounded by hundreds of people that I don't know after they try to get you to go through the naked body scanner. And you're like, I don't want to go through the naked body scanner. So then they pat you down extra. They like extra pat you down. Don't you love that? They're like, fine, you're not going to go through the naked body scanner. Well, I'm going to pat you down. So hold on. All right. So let's go to this next article, though. Now we're going to get into 3i Atlas. And this is pretty cool. This is exciting. Whether or not it's an alien spacecraft, it's really freaking cool. Are the jets from 3i Atlas pulsed like a heartbeat? Let's look at this. See what Professor Loeb has to say. And if you haven't subscribed to his Medium page yet, you should. It's free, and you'll get email notifications every time he does an update. And he's updating like at least once a day for the most part. So following its detection, July 1st, the light from interstellar objects showed pulsating variability with a period of 16.16 hours. The periodic variability reported here was measured to have an amplitude of tens of percent. The observers related this variability to a nucleus with an axis ratio of about 0.8. However, the association of this variability with the ellipsoidal shape of the nucleus is not warranted. Based on the Hubble Space Telescope image taken July 21st, most of the light overshadowed from 3i Atlas originates from a glowing halo around its coma. This coma is transparent so that the nucleus can be seen through it. The fraction of the total light originating from the reflection of sunlight by the nucleus is unknown. Because the nucleus size is not resolved in the Hubble image, however, the brightened pixel in the image presumably overlaps with the nucleus and contains a small fraction of the total light. If all the light originated from the solid surface of the nucleus, then the effective radius of the nucleus had to be approximately this big in visible light, as reported here, or this at a wavelength of 1 micrometer for a typical albedo of 4 to 5%. However, the actual radius of the nucleus must be much smaller since the most of the light is coming from the coma. If the actual radius of the nucleus is r, then the fraction of light that it reflects relative to the total coma plus the nucleus scales as the surface area. For example, the upper limit of r, 2.8 kilometers, inferred here from the Hubble image, implies that the nucleus reflects less than 1% of the total light at a wavelength of 1 micrometer. If the nucleus is spinning over 16.16 hours, why was the periodic variability at a level of tens of percent in total light? Over the past month, images of 3i Atlas showed multiple jets. If the mass loss in the jet is pulsed periodically, the resulting coma would display periodic variability in its scattering of sunlight. So, in the context of a natural comet, this can arise from a sunward jet that is initiated only when a large pocket of ice on one side of the nucleus is facing the sun. As a result, the coma will get pumped up every time the ice pocket is facing the sun. This resembles a heartbeat with a puff of gas and dust serving the role of a stream of blood through the coma periodically over the rotation period of 16.16 hours. Assuming an outflow velocity of 440 meters per second, as suggested in the Webb telescope report here, the distance that sublimated volatiles can reach during 16.16 hours is 25,600 kilometers. So what does that mean? This heartbeat pattern should have been apparent in a series of well-calibrated snapshots of the coma over several days, but none was systematically studied in the published literature. For a technological object, the direction of the pulsing jet could be arbitrary and not necessarily pointing towards the sun. A movie showing the periodic brightening of the jets around 3i Atlas over several days can reveal whether the jets are natural or technologically based on the orientation of the heartbeat pattern relative to the sun. At any event, it is clear that reported periodically over 16.16 hours is not directly associated with the shape of the nucleus, but rather with the collimated jets coming from it out to much larger distances. Wow. That's pretty cool. This is the latest paper on 3i Atlas from Astrobiology. Spectrophotometric evidence for a metal-bearing, carbonaceous, and pristine interstellar comet, 3i Atlas. Cosmogonic considerations suggest that this body may possess relatively high tensile strength and a substantial metal fraction. That's pretty cool. We present photometric observations along its inbound trajectory towards perihelion, together with a spectroscopic comparison to pristine carbonaceous chondrites from the NASA Antarctic collection. The spectral similarities indicate that 3i Atlas may be a primitive carbonaceous object, likely enriched in native metal and undergoing significant aqueous alteration during its approach to the sun, experiencing chirovolcanism, as we could expect for a pristine trans-Neptunian object. Now, the chirovolcanism, the electric universe cosmology guys, they'll laugh at that. They'll say that's nonsense. I don't know. So we propose that the combination of elevated metal abundance and abundant water ice can account for the unusual coma morphology and chemical products reported to date. So, they found very high levels of methanol and very high levels of hydrogen cyanide. Methanol is used as a solvent in paints, plastics, and other chemicals. It's an alternative motor fuel. I thought, oh, okay, it's an alternative motor fuel. That's pretty cool. As well as fuel for camping stoves. It's used as a precursor for producing other chemicals such as formaldehyde and methyl halides. Other applications found in products like windshield washer fluid, de-icing solutions, and some pharmaceuticals. Oh, it's in pharmaceuticals. Lovely. What does this say? Methylamines? Methanol is highly poisonous. It can be toxic if ingested, inhaled, or absorbed through the skin. But they use it in some pharmaceuticals. Oh my gosh. That's what it says. I mean, whatever. So health effects. Ingestion can cause permanent blindness, central nervous system poisoning, coma, and death. Stay away from that. Now, what about hydrogen cyanide? Hydrogen cyanide is a colorless gas or liquid with a faint, bitter almond or marzipan-like odor that is not a reliable warning signal. It is highly flammable and can be explosive. It's extremely poisonous. Inhalation in most common route of exposure, as it inhibits cellular respiration and prevents cells from using oxygen. Symptoms can include headaches, dizziness, nausea, and can rapidly lead to coma, convulsions, and death. Used in various industrial applications such as chemical synthesis, electroplating, fumigation, and metal extraction. It is also produced in some fires from the combination of certain materials. Due to its high toxicity, exposure can be lethal in very short amounts of time. Immediate medical treatment is crucial in case of exposure and is often shipped with a stabilizer to prevent dangerous polymerization. Wow. This is the paper on 3i Atlas, just saying that they detected high levels of methanol and cyanide. They mapped it with the ALMA, stands for Atacama Compact Array. They noticed distinct outgassing behaviors and a remarkably high level of not only hydrogen cyanide, but also methanol. These are the images. Or I should say, this is the data. Spectrally integrated flux maps for HCN. These were taken September 12th and 15th, and for CH3OH on September 18th and October 1st. Contour intervals in each map are given in multiples of the RMS noise. The RMS noise is indicated in the upper left corner of each panel. Contours for HCN and for CH3OH on October 1st. Let's get to the beef on this. It's just giving you all the data, the technology used, the spectrum, and what they detected. I think that heartbeat theory is pretty cool. Yeah, oh, it's got a ton of nickel. Not a lot of iron and a ton of nickel. And the nickel alloy that has been discovered on this object, they actually use for spacecraft. They use that same metal, that same alloy to harden spacecraft. Pretty wild. And we've got a big chunk of it flying through space in a very peculiar trajectory. Very peculiar. I mean, the proximity of Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, and the timing is spectacular. The timing is spectacular, and it's going to be closest to Earth the day before winter solstice. How cool is that? They've also got the United Nations, literally the United Nations and the Asteroid Warning International Network is running an exercise. They started it on the 27th of November. They're going to be running it through January 27th. A multitude of exercises on a planetary defense system. Why now? Why 3i Atlas? Why not another object? Why not YR4? The YR4 asteroid has a 4% chance of hitting the moon. They're talking about nuking it, literally. They're talking about nuking an asteroid. What could possibly go wrong, folks? It's because they love you so much. They're like, we haven't been able to use our nukes on stuff here for a while. Let's go nuke some shit in space. It'll be awesome. Yeah, let's nuke YR4. It's got a 4% chance of hitting the moon. So I think we're going to be a lot safer if we nuke it. Hey, Bob, get the nukes. Let's go. I've been waiting for this. Yeehaw. It'll blow it up. Can you imagine the debris from an asteroid that gets nuked? I mean, I don't know. Sounds a bit exciting to me. So thank you, everybody, so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. And hey, how the heck are you? Well, so this is, I'm glad you brought this up. Secret Owl, Secret 00 says, plug the plasma hypothesis into ChatGPT. It starts explaining all the anomalies, pretty cool stuff. I've had David Drew and Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch on the show. They're very well versed in the electric cosmology. David Drew actually does work for the Thunderbolts project. I think he's an electrical engineer. And he was able to describe in like great detail, very easy to understand, how a lot of these anomalies, if you study the electric universe cosmology and plasma, then the majority of these anomalies can be explained. However, they still weren't able to explain to me this trajectory. And now, since then, since that interview, it's actually changed trajectory just a little bit more. It's changed its orbit just a little bit more to where it's in the Goldilocks zone, essentially around Jupiter, to potentially release technology because of the gravitation. It's called the Hill. What do they call it? The Hill zone. What? Let me repeat this to you. What is the Hill zone, Jupiter? I'll explain it to you better. And I'm going to take a drink of my mushroom kombucha real quick. This mushroom kombucha is amazing. You're going to love it. Root beer flavored. It's the hill zone or hill sphere. It's the planet region. The hill zone or hill sphere of a planet is the region of space around it where the planet's gravity dominates over the gravity of the sun, meaning the planet can hold onto moons, rings, or temporary captured objects. Well, that's where it went. And it wasn't projected to go there until after there were these non-gravitational changes in the object. So whatever caused it to change just enough to be at the sweet spot or the hill sphere of Jupiter. Could it be sublimation? Maybe. Could it be all ice volcanoes? Maybe. Could it be technological thrusters? Maybe. There's 95 moons around Jupiter. There's 95 moons that we know about. That's a lot to study if you are an interstellar visitor. Greg believes, my friend Greg Allison, rocket scientist, aerospace engineer, Santa Claus, he thinks that there's actually some type of like a civilization created a base inside of this object. And he says the reason they probably did that most likely would be because, one, you'd have a lot of protection from radiation. It would be a great way to travel different star systems and be clandestine somewhat. Like, you know, you're not going to see some mothership. You're going to see what looks like a comet. So you're not going to be able to confirm whether it's really a spaceship built into the comet. And I had thought before, if there is a civilization that has the technology to travel to the stars in that way, like they have the technology to make a spaceship inside of a comet, then they wouldn't use that technology. They'd do something else. But Greg seems to think it's a genius way to travel the stars, and I'm not going to discredit it. I'm definitely going to look at that possibility. We're going to go where the data takes us, folks. So we're going to follow the data, and I hope you have a most incredible day, and thank you so much for watching. Aliens are more fun to think about. And you're definitely right. It is not your typical dirty snowball. And then I'm getting a guy with all capital letters saying, clandestine? Question mark, but we do see it. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, we see a comet, but we don't see a mothership. So that would be clandestine because you would think it's a flying space turd, but in reality, you've got some highly advanced civilization in there. That's what I meant by clandestine, buddy. Okay, calm down. Much love, everybody. Have a beautiful day and be the change you want to see.